Welcome to Weathersfield Proctor Library Storytime. I'm Glenna Coleman, Youth Services Librarian, and here's our library bear. Come a little closer, Bear. And we are here to read you the story Diogenes. This is by M.D. Usher, and it is illustrated by Michael Chesworth. Can you guess from the cover illustration who Diogenes is? Let's see if you guessed correctly. Diogenes by M.D. Usher, illustrated by Michael Chesworth. I think you probably did guess correctly, huh? This is the story of a remarkable dog who lived a long time ago in ancient Greece. His name was Diogenes. Most dogs in this world are content with their doggy lives. They sit, stay, roll over, fetch, and play dead. You know, the usual tricks dogs do for a treat or to win a spot at the foot of their master's bed. Diogenes was different. He wanted to be his own master. One day, while his friends were up to their usual tricks, Diogenes noticed a mouse. The mouse did not sit, stay, roll over, fetch, or play dead, nor did she worry about what kind of food she would eat or where she would sleep. She just scurried about, unafraid of the dark, unbothered, in fact, by anything at all. "Woof," said Diogenes softly. "I want to be like this mouse." Diogenes knew that in order to live like the mouse, he needed to learn some new tricks. So he did a very brave and unusual thing. He buried his collar and leash, left his cozy doghouse, and ran off to the city with his dog dish, a walking stick, and nothing more. Diogenes felt unbelievably free, as if a great burden had been lifted from his back. "I like being my own master," he thought. The greatest city in Greece in those days was Athens, so that's where Diogenes went. Athens was magnificent. It teemed with temples, gardens, and luxurious art. But although the people of Athens were rich, they did not seem happy. They looked comfortable, but not content. "Now this looks like a good place to try some new tricks," Diogenes thought to himself. Diogenes' first trick was to need as little as possible and to want even less than that. When he was hungry, he begged for his food. When he was sleepy, he just curled up in an old pot. He learned other tricks, too. To get used to the heat of summer, he'd roll around in hot sand. To get better at enduring winter's cold, he'd hug things covered in snow. Sometimes he even begged from statues. "Why in the world are you doing that?" someone asked him. "To get good at being refused," he said with a smile. He really liked being his own master. Diogenes was determined to live as simply as he could. One day he saw a young boy use his cupped hand to drink water. "Woof," said Diogenes. "Now that's a good trick," and he threw even his dog dish away. The Athenians wondered where this odd dog had come from. "Are you from Corinth, Sparta, Argos, Thebes?" they asked. "None of these," said Diogenes proudly. "The whole world is my home." Diogenes was happy with his simple life. He spent his mornings in the park and lounged about all afternoon in the cool porches and temples of Athens. People asked him if he missed having his own house and garden. "Why should I?" he replied, waving his paw at the great buildings and beauty around him. "I live like a king." People thought Diogenes was strange. Sometimes he would walk through town in broad daylight carrying a lantern. "What in the world are you doing with that lantern?" people would ask. "Looking for a good man," he would reply with a bark. Good people, you know, are often so hard to find you need a light to see them, even in the sunshine. Diogenes soon became the most famous dog in Greece. People traveled from all over the world to see his latest trick. One morning, as he was sunning himself in front of his pot, the ruler of the world, Alexander the Great, stopped by for a visit. Alexander was a king. He was powerful and rich and thought a lot of himself. "Ask for whatever you want," said Alexander, puffing out his chest with pride, "and you shall have it." But Diogenes was quite content with what he had. He was his own master. Diogenes yawned, then opened one eye and made his request. "Would you please step aside? You're blocking my sun." The king was taken aback. He said, scratching his head. "If I weren't Alexander, I think I would want to be Diogenes." Yes, this is a good life, thought Diogenes. Then one day, when Diogenes was walking through the countryside to look for good men there, a dog catcher snatched him up and took him off to the pound. The pound was dark, dingy, and damp. Diogenes thought of the mouse. "I'm still my own master," he said, with a twinkle in his eye. Not long after, a rich merchant happened to walk past the pound. He wore golden slippers and a silk gown, and you could tell he was very fond of his money. Diogenes pointed at the man and yapped, "Hey, give me to him. He needs to learn a trick or two." The man, who in his heart was a good man, stopped to have a look at Diogenes. "What tricks can you do?" he asked. "I know how to be my own master," Diogenes said, wagging his tail, "and I can teach you to be your own master, too." The man was intrigued. "This must be an exceptionally smart dog," he said to himself. So he brought Diogenes home to take care of his children. The children loved Diogenes, and he loved them, too. Together they romped and roamed, and, of course, Diogenes taught the whole family every trick he knew. People say it's a dog's life. And you know, if a dog's his own master, they're absolutely right. Well, this was a most unusual book about a most unusual dog, Diogenes by M.D. Usher, illustrated by Michael Chesworth. If you check this book out of the library, you'll be able to read the afterword, which is about the real-life Diogenes, who was not a dog, but a person, and whose life was just as interesting as the life of the dog in this story. Well, Library Baron, I hope you enjoyed Storytime this week. I'm Glenna Coleman, Youth Services Librarian at the Weathersfield Proctor Library. Join us again for another Storytime, and see you later.